Danny O'Shea found himself gazing at the stark white ceiling of a hospital emergency room mere months ago, questioning whether he'd ever walk properly again, much less glide across the planet's most treacherous competitive stage. It's February 2026. The Milano ice skating venue stands as a magnificent temple of illumination and acoustics, but for Danny O'Shea and Ellie Kam, the journey to this frozen surface was lined with the scent of disinfectant and the noise of surgical equipment. To grasp why their gold medal victory in the Olympic team competition is being hailed as a miracle, you need to rewind to the training mishap that nearly erased their Olympic aspirations. Pairs skating represents the most brutal discipline in winter athletics. It demands a man hurl a woman 10 feet skyward while they both cruise at 30 miles per hour on steel blades. When it succeeds, it's pure artistry. When it fails, it's a medical emergency. Danny O'Shea carries the physical evidence to confirm it. In the months leading up to these games, Danny wasn't simply training. He was enduring. He was gliding on a foot that had been crushed so severely it demanded major surgery involving 2 metal plates and 11 screws. For most 34-year-olds, that's a career-ending notice. For Danny, it was merely another obstacle. But the most frightening injury didn't create a visible mark. It was the one experienced by his partner, Ellie Kam. Just as Danny was recovering from his foot operation, Ellie sustained one of the worst concussions of her athletic journey. One instant she was airborne, the next her head struck the ice with a horrifying impact. In Milan, the world witnessed them positioned on the podium with gold draped around their necks. But they didn't witness the months of struggle, the hidden rehabilitation, and the physicians who informed them that an alternative plan was the only prudent choice. They didn't witness the blood on the frozen surface. They only witnessed the gold. Beyond the physical trauma, there was the experience divide. When Ellie Kam and Danny O'Shea first joined forces in 2022, the figure skating world labeled it a Frankenstein partnership. On one side, you have Danny O'Shea, the 34-year-old seasoned veteran bringing strength and expertise to U.S. skating. He's an athlete who has participated in football, soccer, and basketball. He possesses a physical dominance that's uncommon in this discipline. He had already completed an entire career with his former partner Tara Kane, capturing a national championship in 2016. He served as the first backup for the 2018 Olympics, remaining in South Korea for a month, so near to the dream he could almost touch it, but he never got to perform on the ice. On the opposite side, you have Ellie Kam. She's 21 years old. She's pure Gen Z vitality. She's the newcomer who was born on a Yokota airbase in Japan and introduced a bold, innovative approach to a discipline that was floundering in the United States. Skeptics claimed the 13-year age difference was too substantial. They argued their coordination would never synchronize. They dismissed the partnership as a frantic last-resort attempt for two skaters who had exhausted other possibilities. But as Women's Health and People exclusives have disclosed, that difference became their greatest asset. Danny O'Shea delivered the unwavering stability and the veteran composure while Ellie delivered the passion. They didn't simply discover a rhythm. They discovered a method to trust each other through the most turbulent season of their careers. In Milan, that Frankenstein combination proved to be the only formula that could rescue Team USA. Let's discuss the invisible trauma. As documented by Women's Health, Ellie Kam's concussion marked a pivotal moment for the duo. In pairs skating, the woman must trust her partner with her existence. But following a severe head trauma, that trust isn't solely about the partner. It's about trusting your own mind. Concussion healing isn't straightforward. It's not like a fractured bone where you can observe the X-ray mending together. It involves weeks of mental rest. No screens, no bright lights, no loud sounds. For an Olympic competitor, that quiet is agonizing. Danny O'Shea had to master a different type of partnership during this period. That partnership was patience. He shared with reporters that healing isn't always apparent. He had to wait. He had to believe that Ellie would return, and he had to serve as the foundation while his own body was still aching from the foot surgery. This became the O'Shea approach. Danny has experienced it all: hernias, fractured bones, and the psychological burden of missing previous Olympics. He understood that the only path to Milan was to emphasize brain wellness over repetitions. They stopped performing 100 throws daily. They concentrated on critical execution, quality over volume. They entered the Milano arena as the most vulnerable element on paper. Team USA had the quad phenom Ellie Kam and the world champion dance duo of Chalk and Bates. Kam and Ashi were the ones everyone anticipated would just get through. But when the intensity mounted, the team with the most wounds proved to be the one forged of the toughest steel. The decisive moment arrived on Sunday evening, February 8, 2026. Team USA was locked in a fierce battle with Japan. The quad sensation, Ellie Kam, had faltered in his short program, and the United States' advantage was disappearing. The burden fell directly on the pairs. As Kam and Ashi stepped onto the ice, the atmosphere was charged. They were skating to a compilation that featured Sweet Dreams and Everybody Wants to Rule the World. It was an appropriate soundtrack for a team that had endured a nightmare to arrive there. Precisely 2 days earlier in the short program, they had experienced a devastating fall. Ellie had crashed on a throw triple loop, the exact maneuver that has troubled her since her concussion. Many assumed they would choose caution in the free skate. They didn't. At the 2-minute point, they readied for the throw triple Lutz. This represents the physics of terror. Danny propels Ellie with sufficient force to clear a compact car. For a brief instant, she's entirely disconnected from the earth, spinning at a velocity that challenges human equilibrium. She nailed it. It wasn't merely clean, it was anchored. Then arrived the throw triple loop, the jump she had collapsed on just 48 hours earlier. The venue fell silent. As Danny released her, the path was flawless. Ellie Kam didn't simply land. She floated out of it with a grin that could be observed from the furthest row. They recorded a career-best free skate score of 135.36. It was sufficient to complete fourth in the segment, but more crucially, it secured Team USA 7 vital points. Without those points, the United States would have forfeited the gold to Japan. They weren't merely accompanying for the journey, they were the most valuable contributors who anchored the gold medal. Why did they triumph when younger, healthier teams collapsed? Because Danny Ashi embodies the seasoned guard. At 34, Danny is a virtuoso of lifts. In pairs skating, lifts are where the points are concealed. He's broadly regarded as one of the finest lifters globally. As Tara Lipinski and Johnny Weir observed during the broadcast, his strength is remarkable. He doesn't simply lift Ellie. He supports her with a steadiness that permits her to showcase the artistry of the routine. But his genuine leadership was mental. Following their fall in the short program, the team was rattled. Ellie was crying. Danny, pulling from 3 decades of disappointment and near-miss moments, was the one who maintained her focus. He told her that their objective wasn't to be flawless. It was to discover happiness. This represents the vindication of Danny Ashi. He experienced 2018 as a backup. He experienced 2022 observing from the sidelines. In 2026, he finally received his Olympic opportunity. He achieved it by becoming the veteran commander the U.S. program had desperately required. The Associated Press remarked that their expressions on the podium were founded in substantial suffering. That's the truth of Olympic gold. It's not solely about the 4 minutes of performance. It's about the decades of ordinary moments you surrender to be present. Danny Ashi sacrificed his 20s for this discipline. In Milan at age 35, the sport finally returned something to him. In their exclusive conversation with People, Ellie and Danny discussed what this gold medal signifies for the future of U.S. pairs. For an extended time, the U.S. has been viewed as a singles and dance juggernaut, with pairs being the overlooked middle child. Kam and Ashi have transformed that story. They demonstrated that you don't require a decade-long partnership to succeed. You simply need a mutual set of principles. They're skating for the wounded. They're skating for the aged. They're skating for the newcomer. Ellie Kam, the 21-year-old born on a military installation, is now an inspiration for every young skater who has ever been informed they're too diminutive or not seasoned enough. Danny Ashi is a champion for every veteran who has been informed they're beyond their peak. Their victory is being described as the most stirring gold for Team USA in 2026 because it symbolizes the victory of the human spirit over the clinical report. They didn't triumph because they were the most gifted team globally. They triumphed because they were the most determined. They positioned themselves on that podium, and as the national anthem echoed, Ellie was observed grasping her medal, a substantial weight she mentioned she even rested with beneath her pillow. It wasn't simply a piece of metal. It was the tangible evidence that they were still standing. Achievement in Milan isn't about preventing the fall. It's about the rate at which you rise back up. Ellie Kam and Danny Ashi aren't simply Olympic champions. They're survivors. They're the team that transformed a hospital bed into a podium. They're the team that converted a concussion and a shattered foot into a demonstration in critical performance. As they advance into the individual competition tonight, February 15th, they're no longer the most vulnerable element. They're the MVPs. They've already fulfilled their mission. They've already delivered the happiness. The saga of Kam and Ashi will be recounted for decades as the medical wonder of 2026. It's a testament that in the Olympics, the most stunning routines aren't the ones that are flawless. They're the ones that are authentic. In Milan, the gold didn't belong to the team with the most quads or the fewest wounds. It belonged to the team that declined to remain down. And that's a narrative that will endure forever.